Lady phoned us late last night with a blockage. She's got a child's party tomorrow, so we're here to help her out, OK?
Steve and Steve Hastings are a formidable filth-fighting force. These sewage supermen are a father and son team.
OK, because there's no access point on this, i.e. a manhole cover, we're going to have to actually physically unscrew this, and it should. It's just going to squirt out.
No, I'll look it now. Watch yourself, I'll get it.
Watch out, lads. That soil stack looks ready to blow.
Oh, there she is.
It's absolutely foul, absolutely horrendous.
Pipes and rags and all sorts of...
Makes you want to be sick.
It's disgusting, isn't it? Eh? Why would anyone want to do this for a living? Why do I do it?
Why indeed?
So let's go and get the jet out on.
Maybe it's in the blood.
He's learnt off the best, let me tell you, his dad. I'm number one for number twos. He's number two for number ones.
Dad has brought another member of the family along to help out.
This is my baby, this. Not Steve's baby. Big Steve's baby. That's only because I didn't let the chalk out.
Come on, Dad.
There we go.
Time for some invasive surgery.
We put that in to the bottom and Steve will switch it on, and the pressure will take the hose through the bends and clear the blockage.
Just as well this isn't filmed in smell-o-vision.
Oh, lovely. Looks like we've got it. Pressure's taking it through, but for me to maybe put a little bit of a twist in it like that is going to help it, as you can see, going down. Right, Steve, turn it off. I think we've got it. That's the blockage done. All we've got to do now is clean down.
The old master hands over to the pupil. In this job, you've got to start at the bottom.
As you can see, covered in sewage. Sewage there, pretty standard, yeah. Just add a bit more to my aftershave collection. Just clean that bit down there, son. No, down here.
In time-honoured tradition, the pupil works at the foot of the master.
What I have to put up with every day.
The student makes a clean sweep and the teacher calls time.
Right, that's done. On to the next one. Woo!
When the water system is working, you hardly notice. But when it goes wrong... In West London, Joe and his team can suddenly be turned into heroes for the day.
Hello, mate, from Thames Water. Come and check your drains.
Okay.
Joe confirms the problem.
You see, it's full up at the moment.
And soon discovers this isn't an isolated incident.
I don't know how many times this has happened over the years. It must be 20 times in about 40 years at least.
I think it's a very, very bad design. And the first thing we know about is when it comes up into my utility room.
Is this a major? Semi-major or?
No, it shouldn't be major. Well, keep your fingers crossed.
Of course, the residents want the blockage cleared.
Yeah.
But who will pay? That's the problem.
It could be a private issue. What we need to do is check your drain, and then we check the main sewer.
So what, if you charge, what roughly would the charge be?
That'd be £65 an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who pays will depend on precisely where the blockage is.
It won't be in this one, will it?
What we'll do is check number 15. If 15's blocked at the front, then what we'll do is we'll check the Thames Water main and see if that's blocked, and then we'll go from there. Love my job.
Something different every day.
Yeah. It's still blocked there. This is still on the private side. So what we're doing now, we're going to the public sewer and check to see if the public sewer is blocked. Right, let's go and check this one. Matt.
The search for the blockage moves away from the houses and into the street.
The main is blocked now, it becomes a public issue. We know it's full, so we need to put this cover down and move on to the next one downstream to try and find an empty manhole to clear the blockage.
Now it's a process of elimination, using technical brains
Now we're going to go and check this one down here.
and human brawn. Joe strikes it lucky.
Yeah, this one's empty,
This is the empty one.
so we can get the van onto the pavement and we'll jet upstream and hopefully clear the blockage.
And Joe confirms his hero status by announcing they'll pay.
Good news for you, the blockage is actually in the Thames Water main sewer.
So there's no charge.
So there'll be no charge, no.
Lovely.
So we'll crack on. That's all right, we'll crack on and get it cleared. I'll get it in a minute. That's it, leave it.
At last there's a breakthrough.
Getting through it now. Yeah. Whew. Bit of an hard one, that one. Didn't beat me though.
Undefeated, in this area, Joe confirms he's a winner.
See ya.
Every cockroach must have a mother. Somebody must love them. But really, they are a menace in a home. Not only as a serious health hazard, they don't supply any of the natural fragrance we're all seeking. Put it another way, they smell. And what's the answer? We know the answer. Pest controller Pete.
All right. Hello. Pest control, mate. This is a revisit I'm doing on cockroaches. I've had a little look through the hallway as I come through and I'm pretty pleased with what I've done at the moment. They were up the walls, round the back. When I pulled the fridge out, the floor just got up and just moved. So I've had to treat it really, really hard.
Cockroaches are highly resilient and breed rapidly.
If you look down here, we've got a female here. If I just get hold of it. It's semi-alive. You can actually see the egg case on the back of her. You usually get about 30 to 40 babies in one egg case.
And with these insects, you have to consider the sins of the fathers.
Even if they die, the eggs will still hatch out. So they could be like sitting there, and if you put that in a bag, they actually will hatch out and you would see 30, 40 babies hatch out.
Cockroaches, a bit like bats, come out at night.
I think these have been a bit dosed up with the poison I've used, because usually they run straight away once the light gets on them. They run to the darkest area, they'll be in grooves, crevices, holes in the walls.
Their favourite spot is rather special.
Everything wants heat and warmth, and behind these motors here it's lovely and warm. A bit better than it was before. We had them everywhere, running around. Got a bit of evidence here, down there, a couple of nymphs.
And there's another choice spot behind the washing machine.
Look down there. You can see more of anything, egg cases, couple there, dead ones there. Basically, it's telling me, as you can see the adults here, you can see them dying as well from the stuff I've used, from the spray. We've still got a bit of a festation, but they're only nymphs. But all the adults are dying off. The eggs have hatched out, the nymphs are all running around. I think this is it, last treatment, I'm happy.
Spray them, poison them, but
Do not, and I will say it again, do not step on a cockroach and kill them. You'll end up squashing the eggs, expanding the eggs all over the place, and then you'll just have more cockroaches everywhere.
the depressing thing about cockroaches is that they're not an endangered species. In Dagenham, one of the stars of this series is ready for another leading role.
You like that sound, don't you?
Cue Pete the Pest Controller. He's on an emergency call, but Pete knows the trouble has been brewing here for quite a while.
You'll find when you do the cockroaches, and they're in big festations, they want to run all over you. I don't particularly want to take them home. And it's easier to see them on a white suit
than it is on my black trousers.
If Pete is preparing so carefully, this must be a tough job.
Right, that's all charged up. Right, pest control.
Yeah. It's really bad. She's got it in the passage, in her bedroom, in the kitchen.
Rose looks after her great aunt who lives in the flat in very disturbing conditions.
She gets them in her cupboards, yeah.
Yep.
See? In the cupboards, that's why we don't borrow a lot of food, we do it bit by bit.
How long has this been going on for, do you know?
Oh, it's got to be going on for a few years.
Really?
When we make her up sandwiches, as soon as you put the stuff on the table and you start doing the sandwiches, they must smell it and they start coming. Because one time, the other week, my boyfriend had to hold a plate and I had to do the sandwich on the plate while I was holding it because all this was full of it.
Really?
Pete knows the enemy. It's not just a problem, it's an infestation.
Seems to be a lot on the door frames all the time up the top, sitting up there.
My aunt lives on her own. A lot of people don't like coming round to visit her because they're scared of taking it home, and she gets upset because she don't see no one.
Yeah, there they are. Look at this little lot.
They mostly crawl on her clothes and she don't even, you're sitting there watching and she don't even know they're crawling on there. So it is very horrible and hygienic for her.
On the walls at the back here, coming out the holes. Every crevice, like on the side here, they're just there. You cannot foul by not seeing them. It's like everywhere you look, they're going to be nymphs or adults running around.
As you'd expect, Pete the pest controller is fully up to the task.
We've got a lot of work to do here. Hopefully, we can pull it all off and get it all sorted for the lady.
Back in Dagenham, with the elderly tenants safely out of the way, pest controller Pete completes his assessment. One big one would be bad enough, but they're everywhere.
It's a big job, there's no two ways about it. They're crawling all over us as we're standing here. Look, even on the plates, look. It's just unbelievable, ain't it? They just walk out and walk in. There's so many. I mean, I've got my bag out there. They're all on my bag at the moment. They're up the walls out here. They're just everywhere.
With their days numbered, they're getting friskier.
Species we've got here is the German cockroach, which are quite common, really.
Pete decides to have no mercy.
I know it's a bit time consuming, but at the end of the day, you know, you've got them, ain't you?
He's taking no prisoners, and there's no great escape. Now Pete gets personal.
We'll pull the fridge out and the freezer, and whatever runs, I can spray and get them straight away. This is all the faeces, this is all the faeces samples from them. It's unbelievable, ain't it?
But the game's not over.
Right.
Time to bring out the big guns.
Let's do some devastation.
Pete will fight them in the kitchen. He'll fight them behind the freezer. He will never surrender. Well done, Pete. But the blighters may still be resisting in hiding.
I'm just doing the backup now with the gel, which I know works pretty well.
Pete lays a couple of traps. He'll be back in 2 weeks to declare victory.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Right, bye.
Not quite a perfect day, but good enough.
I'll tell you what, that's one of the worst jobs that I've ever come across for a long time. I don't want to see any more of them, that's for sure.
In Reading, the mysterious case of an abandoned house. Crime fighter Elad arrives with little warning of the horrors ahead. Some signs of serious neglect are obvious from the outside. An old van is blocking the driveway, and Elad doesn't have the keys for it.
Wow, this is a mess. Can't believe somebody's actually leaving a bike in here. And that, wow, that is a messy place. We've been asked basically to clean this property up, and we need to find any kind of documents that could be of any value to the family. The way this looks, this is going to take us quite a while.
An old man used to live here, and he's not exactly made a graceful exit.
You can see that there's been some rodents around here, and it smells like it as well. So I wouldn't be cooking my dinner here. Let's see what's waiting for us upstairs.
And the sight of the bedroom is hardly encouraging.
Trying to imagine somebody living in this kind of environment, that really, really shocks you. And again, I couldn't imagine how somebody can get to this stage, but I guess that's reality. Here you can see the rats chewed on everything here. The rats have been chewing their way into the sofa. I don't know if there's one even still in there. They've kind of been having a rat party here. There's quite a big mess. If I was around, I would love to kind of stay in this kind of place. So.
Elad's task is to clear up the house and to find some personal documents left by the old man.
It's going to take us quite a while to go through all the documents and find what we really need. If they are here and haven't been eaten by the rats yet, then we'll definitely hand them over.
Elad has only been doing this job for a matter of weeks, and he's shocked by what he sees.
This is kind of the worst I've seen, and it is looking like a lot bigger job than what we expected. But we like the challenge, and that's what the boys like to do, so the dirtier the better. Right, guys, well, we got a nice little job on our hands. The place is a right mess. We have to clear everything out. While doing that, we need to find any relevant documents that might be of interest for the family. And you got some friends, some rats waiting for you inside. Right. Okay. So I'm sure you guys will enjoy that. Yeah, no worries. Guys.
Okay, thank you.
Morning, guys.
It's the start of what looks like being a long day. Back in Reading, extreme cleaners Matt and Bertram are about to find out what their boss has let them in for.
Oh well, it looks so we've got
yeah, it is.
What's that now, boy?
Look at that smell of rats and all that, and it smells of urine, and
yeah.
it does actually stink.
And where there's smoke, there's fire.
I've just seen a rat as well, so there is rats in here.
That's a big one.
Yeah, it's a big rat. That's a big rat, man. That's a big rat.
They're leaving a sinking ship.
Wow. This looks bad up here, guys.
That's when you find your unsavoury.
Look, I've just moved the blanket, and there's absolutely loads of droppings everywhere.
Take a look at this fridge. This fridge is really, really mucky.
At least we've got biscuits to have with our tea later, boys. Got the cup. Right. Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Just one thing after another.
Letters in the fridge.
Yeah.
But at least you get variety in this job.
There's the key, actually.
That's for
right,
that.
So what we'll do, we'll see if
that's the key to the van outside.
Shall we go and have a look?
The joy of discovery.
Oh yeah, baby.
The van won't start, but it can be shifted.
Because it's the only one exit, there's loads of stuff what we can get out from here now due to us moving the van.
The big boys arrive. And with a heave and a hoe, the van is soon on the move. With the drive unblocked, it's full steam ahead. The clear-out should now be straightforward. But what about those personal documents?
I'm just looking through the paperwork to see if there's any important papers.
We have to go through it very step by step because this is important documents we are searching for. It will take a bit more time because we don't know where these documents lie.
It's a painstaking process.
Okay. So as you can see, there's loads of paperwork here. We've got to try and sort it out.
But lucky Bertram finds the treasure.
This is what we are looking for. Oh. Rob, I think we'll find what we're looking for here.
For grime fighters, house clearing can be a bit of a drag. Later, we'll see how they got on. In Reading, our team have found the important documents belonging to the previous tenant, but they still need to clear all the rooms in the derelict house.
Oh, I was going to use that bag, maybe I won't. Why? Because the rats have been eating it. As you can see, 3 holes in it.
What is this one? The rat, I've eaten it all out. No butter. It's no good no more.
We'll come across a rat in a minute, you watch.
Matt decides to go on the offensive.
I'll show you where the rats are going to be. Because they like warm places, dark. Yeah, they're in the corner, in the cupboards, they're in the speakers.
Even some of the toughest grime fighters have their qualms.
I hate rats. I mean, I hate rats. I'm absolutely petrified of them. I mean, you know, but you've got to get the job done.
This rat is about, probably about the broom size, bottom of the broom.
Are you sure of that, Bertram?
They're massive.
Hang on, it's going to escape.
Whoa.
It has.
But yeah, there's a rat in here.
That's enough of a diversion. Back to work. You may have noticed there's something of the show business in Matt.
I didn't turn that on. Did you turn that on? Wow, that was a bit scary.
It turns out Matt used to work at the London Dungeons.
I was an entertainments coordinator and I used to dress up and scare people. I'd actually stand there and not move and then scare them. And yeah, it was great. So this is not too far, because basically this scares me because you don't know what's going to be round the corner. Hello.
But the show mustn't go on. There's no business like the grime business.
The foreman says we've got 10 minutes and then we've got to be out of here.
And the best call of the day, job's done.
It looks a lot better now. It's nice to get a place and at the end of it, see it nice and clean, ready for somebody else. And I'm quite proud of it actually. I do need a cup of tea.
Yeah, it was nice. An experience, it really was. So I'll see you soon.
That's a wrap.
But first, in Leicester, council property manager Steve has been called out to a one-bed flat where a tenant has died. It's his job to return the property to a rentable state as quickly as possible. He only has sketchy information from the police. This place could be horrible. And on first impression, it's about as bad as it gets.
This wall here it's awful. The mould that's built upon this wall, there's years worth of mould there. I've never seen mould build up on a wall like this.
As Steve ventures further into the flat, he realises that the mould problem is comparatively minor.
Well, the bathroom's completely full of rubbish. Yeah, I don't know what's under there. Bedroom looks pretty full of rubbish. Where his hands have been touching the doors and whatever's on his hands is all over the doors and frames, and it looks to me like it's human faeces on his hands that is just passing around the property. The living room's absolutely filthy. Black, yellow tar everywhere, it's obviously a heavy smoker. Floors are absolutely disgusting. This is one of the worst properties I've had to deal with, I think. Very rarely you get them this bad.
For Steve, this flat is going from bad to worse, and he's not even seen the kitchen.
The smell in the kitchen's getting a lot worse. It's something's rotted in here. It's a very disgusting smell.
The cooking area may be one thing, but there are a few more surprises left on the windowsill.
Oh, there's some teeth on here. He's pulled some teeth out by the looks of it. 3 or 4 teeth on the windowsill, mixed in with the blue bottles. I've never ever seen any teeth on a windowsill before. I've never found teeth in a property. Maybe false teeth, but not their real ones. He's obviously pulled the teeth out himself, probably while he's cooking his dinner or something.
The big problem for Steve is that his council staff are not trained to deal with such an extreme clean. He's going to have to call on the services of a specialist company to even stand a chance of eventually returning this property to the rental market. The disturbing world of house clearances may often go unnoticed by the general public, but one aspect of grime fighting that directly affects us all is the diligent work of the restaurant inspectors, constantly striving to uphold high standards of hygiene in all of the country's thousands of food outlets and restaurants. Here in Wolverhampton, John and Faye are about to make an unannounced visit to one of the city's many takeaways.
So we're now going to be doing a routine food hygiene inspection, a fish and chip shop, and hopefully we'll find that everything's good at this premises. My name's Jonathan, and this is my colleague Faye. We're here today to do a routine food hygiene inspection. Okay. And is it okay to come and have a chat? Yep.
After gaining entry, their first stop is always the hand basin in the kitchens, a good test of the overall attitude towards cleanliness.
The wash hand basin was bone dry when I came in, so it clearly hasn't been used, and there's also no soap. So I was just asking the food handler how he washes his hands, and apparently they go upstairs to a wash hand basin every time. I'm not inclined to believe them.
Faye isn't convinced about the upstairs facilities. She wants to see for herself.
Does hot water come out of that? Only cold? Okay. So if you do wash your hands, you wash it in this sink, and you've only got cold water to wash your hands? Yeah. Okay. You're not washing your hands very well then, are you?
Back down in the kitchens, the main sink and food prep areas are causing concern.
The law requires that food surfaces are easily cleanable and in good condition, and this isn't.
But under closer inspection, the state of the basins are put on hold as Faye makes an alarming discovery.
Rat droppings, I think. I think I've found rat droppings. No.
Finding evidence of rats in any restaurant is as serious as it gets. If further investigations prove there's an infestation, John and Faye will have no alternative but to close the takeaway down immediately. In Leicester, Steve has had no option but to call in extreme cleaners Dave and Graham to deal with the one-bed flat.
There's a lot of rodent droppings around, so there may be mice or rats in there. The floors and the walls are covered in human faeces all over, where he's been wiping his hands on the light switches and stuff like that. It is pretty bad in there, so get suited up.
Another day at the office, then.
After getting suited and booted, Dave and Graham can get in and check out the flat.
Very bad, isn't it?
Get some windows open, get some air in here, I think.
As always, the first thing to do is to get all the furniture out so they can get to grips with the clean-up.
What we're going to do is take a room at a time. I'm going to get all the big stuff out of this room, bag everything up, fold the carpet up, put it on the lorry. Then we're just going to start the kitchen. It's all the rooms by room, really.
Although these extreme cleans are commonplace for the boys, it still doesn't make it any easier for Dave to contemplate the daily life of the dead tenant.
To live like this, I don't know, it's just heartbreaking, really. Because it's just horrible. The old house is just a mess.
After a while, the sitting room is looking a lot better, clear of furniture and the unsavoury carpet. Now it's on to the kitchen and the teeth on the windowsill.
That human's teeth?
He's pulled his own teeth out.
No.
That is amazing.
He's actually pulled the whole lot out, the roots and all. Look at that, escorts. Stylish and sophisticated ladies available for on-call areas. Look at that. That is some crisp net curtain, that is, isn't it?
As if the ornaments on the windowsill aren't bad enough, after making a start clearing the masses of rat droppings and detritus from the cupboards, Dave makes a disgusting discovery.
Oh, a dead rat. It's horrible. There's a boiler down there or some sort of heating system. No, just cleaning the bottom of it out. It smells like human faeces. First time I've ever smelt a dead rat, and it's not nice.
With the worst of the kitchen cleared, it's now on to what seems to be the bathroom, filled to the ceiling with black bin liners containing yet more rubbish. When eventually they clear the bags, the bathroom underneath is decidedly unpleasant.
State that toilet.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely disgusting.
After the bathroom, the final room is the bedroom, stacked full of an array of boxes, old clothes and carrier bags. Now, having cleared a van load of furniture, the odd mattress and about 50 bin bags of rubbish, the boys can head down to the local dump and call it a day. But they'll be back in the next few days to embark on the deep clean. For For the clean-up teams up and down the country, the daily cleansing of our urban streets is relentless. But when thousands of sports fans descend on a city, the rubbish they leave behind is a nightmare. In Cardiff, the Millennium Stadium and the city centre are playing host to over 300,000 rugby fans here for the Six Nations decider between Wales and Ireland. The atmosphere is exuberant, fueled by an insatiable appetite for beer and fast food. But the result in the next 12 hours will be up to 8 tons of rubbish covering the city centre. For Council Supervisor Dave, the battle begins when the match kicks off and the majority of the fans are off the streets.
We're trying to clean the main arteries of the city centre because the Millennium Stadium is in the city centre, so it's a very compact area. So we need to clean this area here and in front of the stadium, but we've only got a small window of opportunity to do that, while there's 75,000 people in the stadium and the rest of them in the public houses in the area. We need to be in and out before the game finishes.
The clean-up teams have got their work cut out to get to grips with this first wave of rubbish in a matter of an hour and a half.
What we're doing now, though, is basically keeping a lid on the rubbish and the litter that is generated throughout the day, because tomorrow morning we'll be in for 4:30, and then that will really be the business end of the clean-up, because when you come out in the morning, this whole area will be obliterated with litter. You will not be able to see the road surface at all, I guarantee it.
So far, Dave and his team are successfully dealing with their first challenge. Now, with the whistle blown, to Welsh despair and Ireland's triumph, the fans spill out in their thousands onto Cardiff's streets. With no chance till 5:30 tomorrow morning to start the big clean, Dave can only wonder what state the city centre will be in at sunrise. Coming up, restaurant inspectors John and Faye confront the potential infestation of rats. Dave and Graham wheel in the legendary extreme cleaner Showroom Rob, and we're out on a Saturday night of debauchery with enforcer Mitch on the streets of Westminster. Throughout the country, an army of professionals are continuing to dedicate their daily lives to waging war on the nation's grime. In Wolverhampton, restaurant inspectors John and Faye are continuing their surprise inspection of a local takeaway. They've quickly found evidence of rats on the premises, with the discovery of droppings under the food prep area.
Having either mice or a rat infestation is one of the most serious things that can occur within a food business. They carry a whole host of bacteria, and they indiscriminately wee and poo everywhere. And if they've contaminated work surfaces or food, then the food that they've been selling to customers is not safe, and so it's serious.
Standard procedure dictates that Faye now needs to establish whether the droppings are hard or soft to confirm the age of the infestation. And now there are further questions on the general cleanliness of the restaurant.
The rat droppings here are hard, which would indicate that they've been here for some time, but also they've not cleaned properly.
Faye and John need to assess quickly the real extent of the problem. As they investigate further, the lack of hygiene is obvious.
This is shocking in here. I mean, this room is being used as your potato preparation room, and the condition of it is poor. You've got bare plaster, you've got bare floor, broken tiles, bare ceiling, and also you've got a massive great gap around the door and under the door.
John has seen bait boxes in the premises, but with rat droppings in the backyard and the lack of proofing, he is, to say the least, concerned.
They're aware of the problem. Now surely if they're aware of a problem out here, they would try their utmost to prevent them getting in. They haven't done that, which is obviously really frustrating.
John and Faye now set about a thorough search of the whole restaurant for evidence. Behind nearly every freezer, cooker and work surface, they find hundreds of droppings, often accompanied by smear marks left by the rat's oily fur. It's now time to confront the owner about his knowledge of the infestation.
Do you know what a rat dropping looks like? No.
If you don't know what a rat dropping looks like, how are you checking to make sure that you've got none in here? You haven't been.
John and Faye have heard enough. they decide to close the restaurant. So they call their boss, Steve, to come down and verify their decision. While they wait for Steve, Faye breaks the bad news to the owner.
The fact of the matter is that you are likely to be shut tonight and you won't be opened until the problem has gone.
The owner has no option but to wait to learn of his potential fate. In Leicester, Dave is back to start the deep clean of the one-bed council flat. Today he's brought along Lee and the legend that is Showroom Rob. It's a nickname founded on a somewhat obsessive attitude towards cleaning. So the first thing Showroom tackles is the thick layer of nicotine coating the kitchen units.
Nicotine, yeah, you don't normally find it in the cupboards when the doors are closed. It's even in there. It must have been on about 1,000 fags a day.
After making short work of the nicotine stains, Rob, with his customary zeal, immediately volunteers for the bathroom.
I'm just about to get the faeces off the toilet, what's been plastered there for years by the looks of it.
For most of us, spending hours with our head down a loo would seem a terrible existence. But to Rob, it's oddly satisfying.
Other people would say it were an obsession, yeah, but I just like to make things look good. It's a challenge every day to do this. If I had a job where everything was clean, it wouldn't be so boring, wouldn't it?
Within a matter of hours, Rob has worked his magic with the loo, and the rest of the flat ain't looking too bad either. Dave and his team are rightly proud of what they've done.
We've finished the bedroom now, which we're standing in, done the living room. Basically all that's left now is just to finish them, finish the hallway and a couple of cupboards. But we've broke the backbone really of it. We've done really good.
Now Steve from the council can get the flat refurbished and redecorated to get it back on the rental market in the next couple of weeks. At the takeaway in Wolverhampton, restaurant inspectors John and Faye have been joined by their boss Steve. After a detailed inspection, he makes his decision.
To protect the public health, I think the decision's got to be a formal closure.
This ruling is always difficult for the inspectors because it could ruin the business.
The decision to actually formally close premises is done in the public health interest. It's not a decision that we take lightly.
Complying with the law, Faye now displays a notice of closure in the window of the restaurant. It's up to the owners to sort out all the problems and to satisfy the inspectors that their restaurant is fit for purpose. Then, and only then, will it be allowed to reopen. It's Saturday night in London's West End, and as usual, it's party time for thousands of revellers. For Mitch, one of Westminster Council's most passionate enforcement officers, this is the start of the busiest night of the week.
Like any party, we have to make sure that the city's return back to a grade A standard in the morning before mum and dad get home.
While everyone else parties, it's Mitch's responsibility to keep the streets clear of all manner of illegally dumped rubbish. But tonight he's clamping down on street urination, which seems an inevitable result of over-exuberance.
We have a stream of urine here. You can see clearly in the doorways that this area has been abused.
But while Mitch phones for the flusher vehicle, his endeavours don't go unnoticed.
Finally, a saviour for London. I have stood here in disgust for so many years. Watching people urinate up this street, I'm ashamed to say, this is London.
To the delight of the local resident, it's only a matter of minutes before the street flusher arrives and washes the alley clean. So far, it's been a typical Saturday night, but now the clubs are closing and the punters are worse for wear, things aren't improving.
Pop music! There we go, 5 million years of evolution and we've got pop music.
In Newman Passage, Mitch gets a result and catches an offender red-handed.
Did you not consider actually using the toilet before you left? Yeah, you need to plan ahead and think about that.
Mitch has the power to prosecute, with the consequences either being a fixed penalty fine or even a criminal record. So the offender has good reason to cooperate.
I take it from your accent you're a visitor in London?
Yeah, just got here on Friday.
We expect you to respect and appreciate the country while you're here. I wouldn't go to North America and urinate on your doorstep. And apart from that, no one wants to actually see you, so with your tackle out.
Sorry about that.
Please, if you need to use a public convenience, there's plenty of them in Westminster.
It's been a busy shift for Mitch dealing with the traditional problems of a Saturday night. But there's always the odd perk to the job.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate all your hard work and effort.
Now Mitch can head home knowing that at least a couple of people during the evening appreciate his endeavours. Cardiff at 5 a.m. Most of the rugby fans have left, but the city centre looks like a war zone, with only the seagulls picking away at the tens of thousands of half-eaten takeaways. A scene of devastation is quite usual for Supervisor Dave. There's a carefully worked-out plan to return the streets to normal by the time the Sunday morning shoppers arrive. But already, Dave has problems.
Already we've had one vehicle wouldn't start and we've had one puncture. We're short-staffed anyway, so it only adds to the pressure. Some of the machines is 5:10, some of them still haven't left. So we're playing catch-up already. We've only just started.
As the team starts to tackle the mess, it's soon clear this has been no ordinary night of excess. The sheer amount of rubbish is extraordinary.
This is the worst. Never seen worse than this.
Not only do the staff have to deal with the odd straggler wanting to help out, but also the mechanical sweepers are finding it difficult to cope with the sheer volume of litter and are constantly clogging up. All this is slowing down Dave's carefully planned schedule to finish the clear-up by 10 a.m. But after an hour and a half's hard graft, at least Queen Street is starting to look okay.
It's 9 o'clock and we're doing all right, I have to say. This area was awash with litter. Considering what it looked like this morning, I have to say I'm ecstatic.
To meet the deadline, however, Dave still has a few difficulties.
My main concern at the moment still is St Mary Street and Chip Valley. So the problem is the machines are filling up so quickly, and the fact that it's really the grease that's on the floor is dangerous. We're going to have that washed as soon as possible.
But even though time is against him, he still feels upbeat.
I'm confident that we will be done by 10 o'clock, fingers crossed.
Dave has at his disposal over 50 people and a fleet of some 12 mechanical sweepers to get the job done. Now all their efforts are focused on St Mary's Street and the dreaded Chip Alley. With the cut-off at 10 a.m. approaching, these hotspots have been transformed. But as Dave starts to give an update, a passing cyclist reveals the need to give Chip Alley another wash down.
As you can see, the time is 10 to 10, 9:50, 10 minutes to go. And as you can see, it's a miraculous transformation. We're on target for our 10 o'clock and the city centre should be back to normal.
So, thanks to the dedication of Cardiff's unseen army of street cleaners, the first Sunday morning shoppers won't have an inkling of what mayhem went on here only a few hours ago. Since the filming of the show in Wolverhampton, the takeaway that was closed down in May of this year was allowed to reopen. The owner dealt with a rat problem just a week after its closure. Steve already has a list of people wanting to rent the one-bed flat in Leicester, and Mitch's Soho reveller was this time let off with a caution. But first, up and down the country, the economic downturn is playing a massive part in increasing the pressure faced by local councils dealing with the legacy of empty properties and squatters. Here in Leicester, this newly refurbished development of 16 flats has fallen foul of the credit crunch, with all the apartments being repossessed by the mortgage companies. Today, Enforcement Officer Steve from the council, supported by the police, is here to evict some squatters who've been continually breaking into the block.
This property's been vacant for about 6 months now. It's been boarded up by various people, but we've had a problem with drug addicts going in, breaking in, and basically we're going to have to really secure it extremely well today to stop them getting back in again.
With the police gaining access to the building, a steady stream of squatters reluctantly start to appear.
Pass your stuff out, gents. Just collect your kit, fellas, and we'll just do some checks with you outside before we release you, okay? Off, you satisfied customer. Yeah.
With a total of 4 squatters evicted from the ground floor, Steve and Sergeant Hutchins can now move on to the flats above. This time, though, a little more force is required.
Okay. Clear. Yeah, nobody in that one.
After having a look round, the police are satisfied that the rest of the flats are empty.
We're happy that these premises are clear.
With the all clear from the police, Steve can now carry out a thorough inspection of every flat and find out what surprises have been left by the squatters for him to deal with.
Oh, oh dear.
It's not a job he relishes. In Wolverhampton, the sun is shining, and Lou and Dave, the council's proudest litter pickers, are starting yet another regular shift with a bit of a constitutional down Bright Street. Today they're accompanied by a new recruit, Simon, and for Lou, the agreeable conditions herald a good start to the proceedings.
What could be nicer? Look at the lovely sunshine and me walking down here, picking a bit of litter up. Once it's done, I'll feel as if I've done a good job. It's what they pay me for, and I'm proud of what I do. I don't care if people look down on me. This is my job, and I'm proud of it. I like doing it. No trouble at all.
So Lou's even more determined to make sure that even the smallest things won't wreck his day.
That's probably a child's rattle. I'll just put it in here just in case the child lives there, and I don't want a rattle in my bag making a noise, keeping me awake. Put it with these bricks, all right? There's loads of bricks there. That'll do lovely. Probably be through the shop window later on. Oh, hey there, kid, all right, mate?
After some 20 years behind a desk, the new recruit, Simon, finds clearing the streets is making him view the world in a very different light.
I can't believe that people just discard everything. You know, they throw fag packets out the windows, bottles of pop. It is a mess. I dread to think what it'd be like if it was left for a week or so, because there's just so much rubbish.
Simon's determination to stay in work after losing his job as an architect and being prepared to pick up litter has clearly impressed Lou.
Simon's very good, actually. We've had him now 3 weeks and we're training him up. He's been used to sitting on his backside in an office and now we're out here. I think he'll make a good picker. He didn't want to be sitting at home. It just goes to prove people with education, they'll take anything on now. He's tried to bring a young family up and it's hard, it's tough out here now, but he's getting there and fair play to the lad, he's having a go.
After only 45 minutes, Bright Street is looking spotless. Lou and the boys can now call it quits and move on to their next job. In Leicester, Environmental Enforcement Officer Steve is now starting his tour of the flats to evaluate their state after the squatter's eviction.
You can see what's happened here. This is an example where somebody's defaulted on the mortgage and somebody's been in, did a lock change.
These flats may all have been privately owned, but as far as the council is concerned, they represent a serious health hazard to the public, with needles and drug paraphernalia strewn throughout. And it falls upon Steve to take responsibility for the flat's future security and cleanliness.
Oh, right, the first thing that hits you when you come in here, it's that smell. It's stale urine, I think it is. Oh dear, yes. I think this is where we've been having a bit of a party by the looks of it. This is going to need to be completely cleaned out, carpets removed, so we'll have to get some skips in and do that. We can't leave this like this. There's obviously clear evidence of a substantial drug injection here, needles on the table. There's no sharps boxes, they're not disposing of them properly, so you could well find them stuck in, quite often we find them stuck in the sides of the beds and stuck under the beds into the mattress. We will have to get specialist contractors in to clear this because there's obviously a risk of needle stick injury. The other problem is because we've had drug addicts in here, we don't know what else they've been up to, so there's highly likely, there could be all sorts of things left in here. So I'm not going to delve too deeply.
But as is often the case, it's not just the needles that now constitute a health risk. The squatters' bathroom habits leave a lot to be desired.
Ah, yes, right. Oh dear. We knew they were going for the toilet somewhere. Oh dear. That's where the smell's coming from then. This is the kind of thing that we have to get cleaned up as a local authority. We can't leave this sort of stuff lying around.
It's soon apparent to Steve that most of the flats are in a potentially hazardous state. He and his team are going to have to work fast to secure the building.
It's not safe to leave it like this. We'll make it secure today, just stop the drug addicts getting back in, and then we'll take longer term action to clear it out. We can't leave a property like this in the middle of Leicester.
Not only is there the danger that someone could get hurt entering these flats, there's also the real threat of the building becoming a fire hazard. So Steve is taking no chances this time in boarding up the block. He hopes these grills will prove impregnable.
We've had panelling on there before, timber panelling before, and it just gets ripped off. This stuff is screwed to the brickwork, so it's hard work to get it off, and this should keep them out.
Steve can only pray that his team's hard work will keep the squatters out, while he serves notice on the mortgage lenders to force them to pay for the clear-up. In central London, beneath the bustling streets, there are over 40,000 miles of sewers. The upkeep of the system is down to an elite team of highly skilled technicians known for centuries as the flushers. Today, Rob, a veteran of some 40 years, and novice Dan are preparing to venture into a sewer off the Victoria Embankment to confront their biggest problem. More than 90 tonnes of fat is poured into the sewers annually by London's restaurants. In the system, it congeals and causes over half the 100,000 blockages the flushers have to deal with every year.
We've had a report there's a lot of fat down here, so we're actually coming down to have a look and see how we're going to sort the problem out.
They descend with gas monitors bleeping. If there are toxic gases, they'll quickly be alerted. Rob and Dan soon stumble on an old friend.
Yeah, you've got a rat there, look. You're not going to find too many down here. They like it nice and dry. They keep up out of the way. They more likely drowned when there was the last storm. They can only hold their breaths for so long, and then they drown the same as we do. Off we go.
London sewers, built in Victorian times, were mainly designed to deal with sewage. Now, as well as the fat, recent cleansing products are causing big problems.
It's the wipes and things, the baby wipe to wipe with the baby's bottoms and things like that. They just don't break down at all. They go right the way through, right the way down into the works. They all have to be taken out before the sewage is actually treated.
This build-up of fat and wipes creates a thick crust on top of the sewage flow. To gauge the extent of the problem, Rob has no option but to hop in and take a closer look.
Go on then, Dan, you can put the ladder in.
Oh, thanks. If it looks as good as it smells.
I just don't think about this when I eat porridge. It's not too solid, If we drop the flow in here and then get a jetter in here and stir it up.
Blast it through.
Yeah, blast it through.
They will be able to divert the sewage flow and then can use a power jetter to flush the crust away. But they can't combat the smell. Face masks would be useless.
When you're working in it all day long, it actually gets into your pores. And you can have a shower, 2 or 3 showers a day, and it just stays with you.
With the blockage assessed and a solution decided upon, Rob and Dan can now carry on with their inspection further downstream. Coming up, Steve's worst nightmare comes true, Rob and Dan meet some old acquaintances, and Lou stumbles across a drugs den. Throughout the country, an army of professionals are continuing to dedicate their daily lives to waging war on the nation's grime. In Leicester, a few days after evicting some habitual squatters from a newly refurbished block of flats, Environmental Officer Steve's worst nightmare has come true. Overnight, someone has managed somehow to break back into the property, and the top floor flats have been set on fire. At first light, he's on site to inspect the damage.
Oh dear, what a mess. This is what we were trying to prevent by getting the property boarded up, trying to stop all this happening. The building's not structurally safe as well neither at the moment. This is now ruined and it's going to cost a lot of money to sort it out. All these timbers have been weakened, the complete structure's going to have to be taken down and rebuilt. It's going to be an enormous cost, so it's a lot of work that could have been prevented. There's going to be a lot of toxic debt in here, I think.
It's highly likely that the whole block will now have to be demolished and rebuilt. This may be an extreme case, but it graphically illustrates what the councils are up against in their fight to keep one step ahead of the squatters and drug users. The dangers of the discarded syringes still remain.
Whilst you can't see them, we know there were needles here before, that there'll be needles everywhere, yeah, and all sorts of material washed down by the fire brigade when they put the fire out. So this material in here is contaminated. You know, it's got to be taken out very carefully.
Until last night, Steve was responsible for an expensive clear-up of the hundreds of needles, drug paraphernalia and human excrement. Now he's left with a burnt-out building and a scene of total devastation. In Wolverhampton, litter picker Lou is also having his day interrupted by the legacy left behind by drug addicts. He and the team have been called off their regular job roster to clear a drugs den in a local park.
We've had a call at the office to say that somebody's been camping out in this particular area. I know it to be a known drug den at one time, so we're just going to have a quick nosy round. We'll try and clear this out, but we must be on our guard for needles.
Before they can get to grips with the rubbish, the boys need to make a meticulous search of the area for needles. They put them into what's called a sharps box.
Now look at that needle there. I've just picked that up out the bushes. It's got, what, a needle on over an inch long, the needle is. Fancy that just sticking into your children's body part, should I say. You'd be frightened for weeks while the tests were going on.
With the area now free from needles, they can start clearing the tree branches, revealing what seems to be the drug user's alfresco living room.
There's a settee there. We'll see if there's anybody asleep underneath it, OK? Yes, a nice bit of carpet. Do you want it for your flat or what? Do you know David's that tight he wakes up in the night to see how much sleep he's lost?
These sights may be commonplace for Lou, but they constantly underline his despair of modern society.
When I was young, you could go anywhere and what have you. Where I lived, you never even locked your doors at night. But now it's a sign of the times. They're doing crime, they're robbing people's houses. Look at that, just like a cosh. Now say, you was walking down this road at night, people walking down, got no money, and pick up something like that and say, hey, give me your money. What would you do? You'd give your money to them, wouldn't you? I would. I wouldn't like that round my head. What are they doing these days?
Simon, fresh from his 20 years as an architect, seems to be settling in well to his new occupation.
Look, he's enjoying it. Hey. The other day I caught him using two hands.
Simon seems to have become a regular part of the team, but Lou is fully aware that this job may only be a stopgap, and he's anxious to help.
Anybody who's looking round wants a nice young lad here, do a few drawings, he's available.
Simon, though, seems pretty happy to stick around.
The office I used to work in, if you're new, you'd be lucky if anybody spoke to you for about 3 months. It's very different. I'm enjoying it. We have a good crack, so that's the main thing.
With their work practically over, all they have to do is to get the old sofa on the van.
If I wanted a job moving sofas, I'd have gone and worked at DFS. But as it is, I work for Wolverhampton City Council, the best council in the land. Come on, Simon, on the van.
In central London, sewer flushers Rob and Dan are continuing their daily schedule. They're about to look at another sewer run off the Victoria Embankment in Westminster. Descending into this Victorian brick-built sewer, it's soon obvious that conditions are quite different from the modern, concrete-clad system they came across this morning.
The fungi that you see growing here grows on the fat and slime that's on the wall of the sewer. I don't think it's edible. I'm not going to try it to find out. I mean, as you can see, the flow coming through here is peak flow at the moment. We're, sort of up past 12, 1 o'clock. Everybody's going to lunch, everybody's having their breaks and going to the toilet. This is sewage, as you can see, but in that there's fat, there's rags and everything else that shouldn't come down into the sewer system.
As they go further down the flow to the bottom of the stairs, they can retrieve some samples from the build-up for closer inspection. The main cause of the problem, as ever, is thousands of baby wipes that don't degrade, and the congealed fat from the restaurants above.
This is the solid fat that's been down here for quite a while. see it there, that's solid. And this stuff is a mixture of fresh fat, and then this is all a mixture of toilet paper and everything. That's a white.
As well as the fat and wipes causing so many problems, there are other regular blockages that Rob can't really do much about.
Well, I'm not the Pope, and I wouldn't sort of say don't use condoms, but try using maybe a few less. But I don't know what the answer is to that one. I suppose we'll have to live with that. You wonder the size of the people that the condoms have actually been used by, because they're bloody enormous. Might fit Danny. Danny's been up Leicester Square. He's saying he was up there the other week, so, you know, might be one of his down there.
I'll put it in the bin.
That's it. Bin it, don't block it. That's it. Danny's got the motto.
Dealing with the unpleasant contents of the sewers is most people's idea of hell. But to Dan, with only 2 years' experience on the job, life couldn't be better.
It's like a bit of a thrill, isn't it? If you had to think about the job that you do and what you were actually involved in, it will probably turn a lot of people's stomachs. There's not many people get to walk around under the streets of London. There's so much goes on that so many people don't know about.
So, after a detailed assessment of the build-up, Rob now has a plan of action.
That extends for about, I would say, about 30 or 40 metres up the line. It goes right the way through down the embankment. I would imagine there's somewhere in the region of a few tonnes of fat anyway. So basically, we're going to get a jetter in and we'll flush that through.
Rob and Dan can now head back to the surface and make their report. In the coming weeks, a team will be back to lower the flow in the system and flush the build-up away. The career of a grime fighter doesn't always mean working in horrendous conditions. Here in Newcastle, David and Mark spend their day languidly cruising the River Tyne aboard the good ship Clearwater. It's the pride of the Clean Tyne project. The boat is specifically designed for lifting all manner of debris and rubbish out of the river. For David, the job is everything he wanted.
It's a dream job for me, like, because I used to live on the river there, further down South Shields, and when I was a kid, I used to play on the river, and being young, it was always a dream to work on the river, and it come true.
Mark is also grateful for the life the job has given him.
I've been on the river all my life, and it's just it's one of them jobs. When I seen it, I had to advertise it, and I would have cried, I think, if I hadn't got it.
Their haul is normally made up of tree trunks, old fridges and traffic cones. But that's not all.
We've had a sheep, we've had a pig, you know, pretty disgusting, like really smell. You've got to really have strong guts like for the job when you get things like that, you know.
Even after light rains, the river this morning still offers up a steady stream of debris.
We've got a tree here, small tree. There's plenty of these in the river, like.
These smaller branches are common, but after storms, they can get an awful lot bigger, and David's got the pictures to prove it.
That's where the wall of floods in September. I bet you that must have been about a ton, maybe more, 2.5 maybe.
The weather may not always be this forgiving, but David and Mark are making the best of the calm conditions, stopping ashore at certain hot spots where, due to the current, huge amounts of rubbish regularly collects.
You see the variety of stuff that we'll get with plastics and that, you know, road going, baskets, everything.
On the Tyne, there's still a constant flow of rubbish, but it was far worse 10 years ago.
We get like a skip and a half or 2 skips a day. Yes, it's still one of the cleanest rivers, like, you know, in Britain.
The water is now so clean that in 2001, the Tyne recorded the highest salmon catch by anglers in the whole of England, with over 2,000 salmon caught from its waters. And this makes Mark very proud.
I've been on a river all my life, and I've seen the river progress from being the way it was years ago to where it is now. So it gives us a little bit of sense of pride that I'm helping to make the river the way it is.
So with the skip full, Mark and David can head back and unload their haul. A satisfying end to another perfect day tootling about on the Tyne. Since the filming of the programme, the burnt-out block in Leicester still awaits demolition. Sadly for Lou, litter picker Simon has returned to a career as an architect, and the blockages in the sewers were quickly washed away by the flusher teams. The diligent work of clean-up teams is usually welcomed by the general public. But here on the front line in the suburbs of Newcastle, Environmental Enforcement Officer Tracy and her partners Debs and Vicky are being given a hard time. It's when the conditions of people's own homes is brought into question that trouble can flare up. It's then that the duty of the council to maintain public health isn't fully appreciated. For their own safety, Tracy and her team frequently have to ask the police to accompany them on their rounds. But she's become used to the dangers of the verbal and physical abuse her and her team often receive.
You just sort of take it on the chin, really, you know, it's part and parcel of the job sometimes. Nobody likes being abused or being people being aggressive with them or being intimidated by people, but it's something you just have to risk assess every situation and not put yourself in harm's way. And if you think that the situation's going to get worse, take yourself out of the situation.
First on the agenda today is a resident who Tracy has served notice on to get their flat cleaned up.
So this is D-Day to see if he's complied with the notice that we've served on him, see if he's carried out the work.
Without a warrant, she hopes the man will voluntarily allow her to take a look.
Hiya, just me. If you don't let us in, I'm coming back with a warrant.
With that kind of welcome, there's nothing more Tracy can do, but she'll be back over the coming days with a warrant to force entry. It's not just the daily abuse Tracy has to cope with. There are also some rather disturbing situations.
I think the worst one I've had was a dead St Bernard that had been there for about 6 months and had completely decomposed. The carpet was just a carpet of dead flies. It was only when entry was forced to do a gas safety check that we discovered the conditions.
For her next call, though, she does have a warrant, so whether the resident likes it or not, she'll be able to gain access.
Hello. He's in and he's not happy.
In Leicester, council property manager Steve is dealing with the clean-up problems after negligent tenants have left. He has to work out how to refurbish the property and get it back onto the rental market.
We've got this top floor tower block flat today. I think the previous tenant's been evicted, so we're just going to have a look inside and see what we can find.
He's only just gone through the door when he's hit by the smell from the bathroom.
Quite disgusting in there, to be honest. There's a lot of dog mess on the floor in the bathroom, so it looks like she's had animals not allowed within tower blocks, so that's probably one of the reasons why she's no longer here.
Now on to the living area.
This is obviously somebody's living room, but from the state of the sofa and the chairs, I don't know how they've ever been comfortable in here. Bikes everywhere, they've just been doing bike repairs, mobile phones. It's not my idea of a living room, just a collection of rubbish really that you find at a tip. You do wonder how somebody's lived in this property. Well, this is how people live, unfortunately.
Steve has to see flats like this every day, and it does have an effect on his home life.
The way I go on to a girlfriend, I'm always moaning at her about cleaning. It's probably because I see things like this that I get a bit obsessive compulsive at home, and as soon as a bit of dirt or crumb around, I'll be hoovering up around her when she's eating her lunch and stuff.
Refurbishing this flat poses serious problems, not least the fact that it's on the 17th floor.
We might have a problem with that window, but we're going to have to try and get that emulsion off. It costs a lot of money to get scaffolding up here to replace that, so it depends if it's gloss or emulsion, whether it'll come off or not. That's going to be a nightmare job for somebody cleaning that.
The final room he looks at is the kitchen.
Graffiti again on the units. We've got some more graffiti on the door there. They obviously didn't have a piece of paper to write it on, so the nearest thing to hand was the door. This will need a new kitchen. The units, by the looks of it, they're beyond repair, so we'll change all the units. New sink, new worktops.
Steve has to get this flat cleared quickly so he can start the refurbishment as soon as possible. Prospective tenants are already queuing up, so once again he's going to call on the services of Suicide Sid and his A-team. Sid acquired his nickname because of the zealous way in which he clears properties. Suicide and the boys can empty a 3-bedroom house in around 30 minutes. So this place should be a bit of a doddle. In Newcastle, Enforcement Officer Tracy is continuing to take residents to task over the way they live their lives. On this call, she's working with Vicky. They're visiting a man who has so far refused to clear mountains of rubbish from his house.
Well, basically, this is a property we've been at before, where the fire service have rang in and there's a fire risk. It's so cluttered that if that property catches alight, obviously it's a terrace property, so all the other properties may catch fire as well. We've had problems in the past getting access, so we've actually obtained a warrant from the Magistrates Court to force entry if needs be. So we've brought the joiner with us to try and get in with as little damage as possible. And we're just waiting for the police because there has been threats made by this gentleman in the past to members of staff.
Before long, the police arrive.
He's in and he's not happy.
Tracy can now try to get in. This time, the man is cooperative. They won't have to force the door. They don't need the carpenter.
Come on.
All right, okay. Vicky, Laura.
Once inside, Tracy's worst fears are realised. It seems the man has made little effort to clear away any of the clutter which is piled chest high in all of the rooms. He can hardly get to his bed or to the bathroom. This place is undoubtedly a fire hazard, as well as a potential breeding ground for vermin. Tracy needs to take action.
Okay, so obviously that you haven't done what we've asked.
I've tried, I've got stuff away, I've got stuff bagged ready for Friday.
You still haven't complied with the notice that we've given you. Like Vicky says,
I cannot do everything at once. You know too much and you shouldn't know anything.
At the end of the day, you haven't done what we've asked. You've had this since February to deal with. You haven't done it. So we're going to bring contractors in who are going to do it, which will involve getting rid of anything in here that we deem needs to be gotten rid of.
As far as Tracy is concerned, she's seen and heard quite enough.
Right, that's us, thank you. This is his last chance to prove to us that he was going to do the work that we needed him to do to clear the property. He's just sort of moved things around from room to room. The property is a massive, massive fire risk. The man's a smoker, he likes a drink, and unfortunately that's a massive risk when you're in a terrace property.
The contractors will arrive in the coming weeks, and the man may be charged hundreds of pounds by the council for their services. It's estimated that there are over 60 million rats in Britain. If you're unlucky enough to live near a property that's infested, your own home is likely to be affected too. That's exactly what's happened here in Dagenham in Essex, where Council Pest Controller Pete has been brought in to tackle the problem.
Hello, Pest control.
Yeah.
All right.
Pete has been battling to control an army of rats invading a resident's home from a vacant house next door. Even with his years of experience, he doesn't understand why there are so many rats.
For some reason, they wanted this house. It's a clean house, it's not a dirty house. I couldn't understand why the rats are moving in here quickly. I've had 28 rats out of this property so far.
Because of the rats, Roy's family's life has been ruined.
The rats have literally chewed through everything. As you can see, the house is clean. We're living next door to a slum. My partner, she's off work through stress. Her daughter has literally moved out. She doesn't want to be here no more because she doesn't know what's going to come out the cupboard. Everyone has their castle to live in, and it's just wrong.
The rats are attracted to the kitchen. They come down from the loft through the cavity walls to seek warmth and food. Pete focuses his attention on the space under the kitchen units.
All my bait bags, and everyone has been chewed through, as you can see. They've chewed all the bait through the bag and took the bait out.
There are many possible ways to solve the problem. Pest Controller Pete needs to be a bit of a detective.
The reason why I've got it on string is because whatever way the string goes on all the baits, it gives me a good identification what way we're going to find the rats and where they're coming in from and where they're leaving from.
For Pete, it's sometimes a case of the more, the merrier.
If there's 1 in 2 rats in the house, it is a nightmare to try and catch them, really is. But when you've got baits like this being eaten every day, and I've done 15 bags of bait in this house, and that's a lot of bait, there's a lot of rats because they're competing for the food. So where they're competing, it's making my job easier to catch the rats because I'm poisoning them quick. Bang, 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 and using traps as well.
Pete is going to have to use all his experience to stay one step ahead of the rats. For Roy and his family, they must be eradicated. Coming up, Suicide Sid and the A-Team clear the top floor flat in the only way they know how. Tracy challenges another tenant, and Pete reckons he's winning the battle. Throughout the country, an army of professionals are continuing to dedicate their daily lives to waging war on the nation's grime. In Leicester, council property manager Steve has called on Suicide Sid and his A-team to pull out all the stops. Suicide and the boys can empty the contents of a family house in 30 minutes. But this one-bed flat is on the 17th floor, and everything has to come down via the lifts.
You're limited spaces on the lift. You know what I mean? You can't bring anything downstairs because it's a fire hazard. And with Dave coming inside the lift, and you can't get so much in it, can you?
They've used these ones before, and that doesn't inspire confidence.
I hope the lift don't get stuck. It does break down very often.
This one does, doesn't it?
But this time, hey-ho, the lift is working, and they can make a quick start. First, they remove the council's protective door.
The bins have got to come in and out, and also the chairs and the sofas have also got to come out this way, so we can't get them out with this on, so it's got to come off.
Once the door is off, the problems are exposed. Sadly, they've seen this all too often.
I would say this is about the average.
That's an average, yeah, for a bad flat.
After years in the job, Sid is still baffled as to why people do this.
I don't understand how people can live like this, really. Apparently she was an alcoholic. I mean, looked at it, you'd think it was a boys' flat, wouldn't you? With all the push bikes and that, but you wouldn't believe it. It's a woman lived here. Maybe she had a fetish for bikes, I don't know. Makes you wonder where she sat and slept. There's no bed in here or anything.
As always, it's the big stuff first, so the boys grab the sofa, or what's left of it.
What do you add to this then? You got some use out of this, didn't you? But there again, it's alcoholics, isn't it? They don't spend money on furniture or anything, they just drink all the time, isn't it? You know what I mean? So they'll just put their head down anyway, wouldn't they, really?
Usually the fridge in these properties is horrible, but amazingly, Sid doesn't have to hold his breath.
It's not bad, actually.
With the big items cleared, the boys are making good progress, and there's time for a spot of reminiscence.
You just don't know what you're going to come up against. You know what I mean? Some places you could come to an house or a flat, and it's immaculate. When I say immaculate, you could walk in there and actually live in the places, you know what I mean? But then some places you get like this. I mean, we went to a flat the other week. The bloke had put all brand new carpets down and never moved in. And we've just gone there, took all the carpets away and just crushed them all. Pointless, isn't it? This house we've done. And we found these photos of a woman in bondage. And a couple of weeks later, Dave went to the co-op and actually bumped into the woman, didn't you?
Yeah, in queue. I can't say too much because my wife will with me. But I did say I recognise you.
Yeah, with no clothes on.
Things seem to have been going rather well. But then there's the bathroom.
As you can see, as you walk in, it looks like the dog's been living here. Been there a few days actually, because it's dry, look. It's quite rock hard. Doesn't look like she used the bath or anything, does it? It looks like the dog's been using it. Caution wet floors, cleaning in progress. Is that what she calls cleaning? How's about that then?
Thanks to the boys' hard work, the flat's looking a whole lot better. But will property manager Steve agree? In Newcastle, enforcement officer Tracy and her team have been called to a flat where a council tenant is believed to be living in horrible conditions.
It's a property where we've had reports that the bath, the toilet and the wash hand basin's full of faeces. We've noticed it when the block flooded over the weekend.
There's no answer. Tracy's colleague Brian isn't going to be put off.
Hello, it's the housing office. Can you open the door, please?
It was worth the effort.
Hiya, my name's Tracy McCann. You got the notice. Can we come in and have a look around, please? Thank you.
Tracy heads for the bathroom.
The main problem's with the bathroom. Where's your bathroom?
Fortunately, the contents of the bath have been removed.
Well, the report was that the bath and the sink and everything was full of faeces, and it's not.
But the lavatory is in a pretty poor state, and the floor needs cleaning. The improvement is welcome, but Tracy still has to evaluate the condition of the rest of the property. There seems to be some confusion over whether the man wishes to continue living here or whether he wants to leave.
Do you live here? Is this your main residence? Yes. What sort of notice? Notice to quit?
Notice of termination.
If you haven't terminated by the end of today, then I'm going to serve a legal notice on you to get the work done in this flat, to put it right, to get that toilet cleared.
If the man does go, the flat will have to be cleared at the council's expense. If he stays, he will have to pay for the repairs. Tracy leaves the man to decide what he wants to do. Her colleague Brian has found out how the bathroom might have been cleared.
Brian has just said there when the technical lads went in on Monday, he was actually scooping the faeces out of the bath with a pan. I have no idea where it has gone, but yeah, it was a much nicer scene than I expected when I went in.
The tenant has until this afternoon to decide whether to stay or go. In Dagenham, pest controller Pete is continuing to check the bait and traps he's laid in a house to cope with a serious infestation of rats. They're coming from a derelict house next door. As he looks under the units in the kitchen, it's Geronimo.
There you go. It's one of our culprits. This rat's been caught for about an hour, hour and a half, roughly. By how soft it is, there's no rigor mortis setting.
Pete has to know everything about the lifestyle of the rats. It's a case of know your enemy.
This one's a male. You will hear the males rucking and fighting and scrabbling over the food. The females won't. They just tend to want to be in a group and eat the food together and share it. Males are sort of rucking, hear that squeaking sort of noise all the time, which we have heard in here when I've actually put the bait in.
Pete learns from the way the rat died how it lived.
When you catch them around the head like this one, it's telling me basically that there was more than one rat running along here on the food. 9 out of 10 a rat would use its tail and try and flick the bait literally off the trap, and then if it gets caught on the trap with its tail, the actual tail part, sectioned from roughly about here, will come apart, then will actually come off. It's like a lizard. When it gets caught or you pick a lizard by its tail comes off. Exactly the same with a rat. The rat does the same, and that's how he gets away.
Pete's won a small battle today, but the war is far from over. Homeowner Roy is still upset because it wasn't his fault.
You tell people, they say, oh, what's happening? Oh, we've got rats in our house. The first thing they think is, oh, another dirty family. They don't see what we have to live with. We keep our house tidy. We spent a lot of money doing how we want to do it, how we want to live. And through someone's negligence, our house is ruined. We try our hardest to keep our own area clear. We sweep the front out. Our dog goes to the toilet in the garden. It's picked up so we don't upset our neighbours. And it just ruined our lives.
After rebaiting and resetting the traps, Pete can call it a day. He'll be back tomorrow to check the traps yet again. In Newcastle, Environmental Enforcement Officer Tracy has moved on to deal with illegally dumped rubbish. For her last call of the day, she's joined by her regular partner Debs. They can't resist rummaging through some discarded black bags in an alleyway.
This was a complaint that's coming from a local resident, so we're just going to have a look through, see if we can identify where these bags have come from.
Tracy and Debs are trying to find out who's responsible so they can caution or even prosecute the offender. Some people leave all sorts of personal information around.
It's a bank account paying in receipt with a sort code, account number, 80 quid paid in.
It's unreal the sort of things you come across. Checkbooks, bank cards, full bank statements with full bank details on. Should somebody come along with intentions that were not entirely positive, then it would mean that, you know, they would have access to a lot of information, people's personal information, which I'm sure, you know, they could make use of.
Inside every bin bag, there's always the prospect of an unpleasant surprise.
Carefully don't stand in that bag beside you because I think it's a dead animal. I can see guts.
You can see guts? I think it's a dead bird. It doesn't smell good, let's put it that way. I enjoy my job, but sometimes there's parts of it that aren't so nice.
The bank account details should lead them to the culprit. They'll send out a cautionary letter, and if
the bins down there and just lock up.
Sid is resigned to the fact he'll be back here again.
We do go to an house, twice, 3 times a year sometimes. Why you want to move in for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, then like you move back out again. Plus you're leaving all your furniture what you brought in. I mean, there's people out there who ain't got nothing, absolutely nothing. And yet these people can just walk in an house, fill it with all their furniture, and just walk out in a couple of months and leave it all. Then send someone else in and do the same again. We'll be back again.
But Sid's always got Dave to keep his spirits up.
You know what they say about fat guys, don't you? They may have small ones, but look at the weight pushing at home.
This is tough work for tough men. But there are problems.
No, I've done one of my nails.
Since we filmed, the man with the mountain of rubbish did all and more than was asked to remove what had become a serious fire risk. The tenant, given the chance to stay or go, decided to leave. The flat will soon be back on the rental register. In Leicester, the property on the 17th floor was soon re-let. In Dagenham, the score was 45 dead rats to 0, and Pete is determined there's going...